Alright guys, we've got a lot to unpack in today's video. All of the midweek games will be discussed throughout today's video, but of course the main focus will be on all the matches we've got coming up in the Championship this weekend. It's a full fixture list, it's a very quick turnaround from midweek. As always, want to get your guys' thoughts on these matches in the comments down below, but without any further ado, let's just jump in. And we're starting out on Friday night for Preston up against Sheffield United at Deepdale under the floodlights. It's Paul Heckingbottom against Chris Wilder, and there's a chance here that Preston could go 3 losses from 3 in this batch of games, and Sheff United could go 3 wins from 3. Back-to-back wins for the Blades, a big result for them on Tuesday night against Blackburn. Good second half performance especially, putting 3 goals past Rovers, and another Lancashire away day here for them. For North End, it's been hugely frustrating coming out of this international break and having back-to-back losses on the board against West Brom and Birmingham, especially considering I don't think we played that badly over these last 2 matches, but we've come out of it with 0 points. I think we have been on the wrong end of some key decisions in both of those matches, especially in midweek against Birmingham, where just absolutely everything seemed to be going against us. But from our perspective, we absolutely dominated Blues in that second half, but just weren't clinical enough. You know, we didn't test Beadle enough, and we're just a bit wayward with our finishing. I thought that lineup-wise, I could see the logic in why Hecky changed it in midweek, but ultimately he probably got the lineup a little bit wrong for that game, which I'm hoping will mean the likes of Small, Devine, Dobbin, Osmaic are a little bit fresher for this game on Friday because they were all on the bench against Birmingham in midweek. Honestly, it's another game I could see being quite tight, and North End have been on the wrong end of these tight matches recently, and Sheff United seem to have had a bit of a change of their fortunes, so a narrow Sheff United win wouldn't surprise me, but I'm going to say Preston gets something from this game. I'm going to say it finishes as a 1-1 draw to kick off the weekend. Next up to Coventry up against Watford, and I mean, it's hard to see past Coventry right now. 5 consecutive wins, that one in midweek away at Portsmouth, I really felt was a statement victory because Fratton Park is not an easy place to go to, but this Cov side, regardless of who's playing in that forward 3, they can just come at you from all angles, whether it's Brandon Thomas-Asante, Ellis Sims, Mason Clark, Sakamoto, Haji Wright. There's so much quality and depth there that if 1 or 2 of those players are having an off day, they've still got 3 or so more quality forwards who can come at you. And probably one of the more underrated aspects about this Coventry side so far this season is, you know, we've all praised their attacking output so far this season, which has been absolutely magnificent, but their defensive structure and underlying defensive numbers have also been amongst the best in the Championship as well. Now, this matchup against Watford will be an interesting one. Watford got a big win last night against West Brom, coming from a goal behind to win that game. Bit of quality from Loser to get them back into it before Vata scored the winner. Thought it was a needed system change that Gracia went with in that match. Ended up paying off in the end. I just think that going away to Coventry right now for any team in the league is a real tall order, and I'm going to back Coventry for a 3-0 win in this game. I just think Watford are going to be a little bit streaky for the next few weeks while Gracia gets to properly know this squad. Next up to Portman Road for Ipswich up against West Brom, and who on earth saw that result for Ipswich coming in midweek, losing 3-0 at home to Charlton. I know that Ipswich have been pretty patchy with their away form so far this season, but generally speaking, we've been able to bank on them for their home fixtures in terms of consistently picking up points, but after putting Charlton under all sorts of pressure in that first half, they just fell apart in a sort of 15-minute period in that second half, and the game was completely lost from that point onwards. Will they be able to dust themselves down for this one? Well, they'll be going up against the West Brom side, also looking to bounce back from a defeat in midweek. They lost 2-1 away at Watford. Cracking goal to give them the lead from Isaac Price, and from that point onwards, I was sort of thinking, here we go, this could be a typical sort of 1-0 backs against the wall away performance from the Baggies. But that game just got away from them in the second half. And is there something to be said that, I mean, probably the last 3 goals that West Brom have scored now have all been absolute bangers. Price's goal against Watford and the 2 goals they scored against Preston. Consistently, though, they're not creating that many like high quality chances for me. Like, they're scoring absolute worldies at the moment, but how sustainable is that going forward? I still feel like there is a bit of a need to up those chance creation levels and just get more high quality shots off inside the box. For a game like this, I mean, Ipswich might be a bit of a wounded animal after how midweek went. They could be really up for this game and just blow West Brom out of the water, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one's low margin. I could see it finishing as a draw. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1er between those two. Next up we go to Fratton Park for Portsmouth up against Stoke. An interesting matchup this one. Both sides coming off the back of losses in midweek. Portsmouth losing against Coventry and Stoke losing away at Millwall. From a Pompey perspective, there's certainly no disgrace in losing to that Coventry side right now. They're the best team in the Championship, and I thought Pompey actually played some decent football themselves, got into some good goal scoring positions, had a few penalty appeals waved away in that game as well. Ultimately, they'd have probably been just a bit disappointed with how the Coventry goals came about. Going up against a Stoke side who have been a little bit up and down in recent weeks, I think it's fair to say. They got that good win over Wrexham at the weekend, but couldn't follow it up in midweek and fell to a 2-0 loss away at Millwall. It was just a bit of a slow start to the game from Stoke, and ultimately that was their undoing. When you find yourselves 2 goals down away at Millwall after about 20 minutes, it was always going to be a massive uphill battle from that point onwards. Lack of goals has been a bit of an issue for this Stoke squad recently. They've not scored more than 1 goal in any of their last 8 Championship matches, so if we apply the same logic to this sort of game here, I think Pompey get at least 1 goal against Stoke at home. Stoke are going to need to break that trend, I think, if they want to get all 3 points in a game like this. From a Portsmouth perspective, 4 points from their last 3 matches, which have been up against Middlesbrough, Leicester and Coventry, I don't think is a bad return whatsoever, and with them being at home for this game, I'm just going to give them the edge as the side that maybe bounces back in this one. Score prediction, I'll go for a marginal 1-0 Pompey home win, but think it'll be tight. First goal will be very important in that game as well. Next up to Ewood Park for Blackburn up against Southampton, and another pair of Championship clubs both looking to bounce back from defeats in midweek. Both clubs actually taking the lead in midweek as well before going on and losing their matches. Blackburn losing 3-1 against Sheff Utd and Southampton losing 3-1 away at Bristol City. Now, both sides have been a tough one to put your finger on recently. Blackburn, once again, for the first 50 or so minutes of that game against Sheff Utd, thought it looked like a pretty decent performance. They got themselves into the lead of that game, but as soon as they gave Sheff Utd a sniff of getting back into that game, it just completely got away from them, and then in the second half they sort of unravelled. Having now only accumulated 7 points from their first 10 matches, I mean, results are absolutely needed if Valérien Ismaël wants to stay in that job for much longer. And speaking of a manager needing results right now, that's also very applicable to Will Still at Southampton. Once again, Saints got themselves into a good position away at Bristol City with Adam Armstrong giving them the lead, and once again there seem to be some nice passages of play with Southampton going forward and getting into some good goal scoring positions, but defensively they were just an absolute shambles for that game. And don't get me wrong, going away to Bristol City is a tough game, especially with the way Gerhard Struber sets up. They can really press onto you, they don't give you much space and time to breathe. But most of the goals Southampton conceded in that game were of their own doing, which is the real frustration. Honestly, this game could go either way. I do still think, though, that Southampton are a better side than Blackburn, and off that logic, I'll go for them to win this one just. I'll go 2-1 Southampton on the road, because nothing seems to be falling for Blackburn at the moment. But even in me saying that, I'm not too confident in that prediction. Next up to Ashton Gate for Bristol City up against Birmingham. Both sides looking to ride the wave of confidence after winning in midweek. Bristol City have made it back-to-back wins now, a really good result for them, and performance in midweek against Southampton, putting 3 goals past them. Going up against the Birmingham side, who will be hoping that they've turned a bit of a corner after winning at Deepdale on Tuesday. A big result, that one, for Chris Davis, who I think, had Birmingham not won that game, would have been feeling quite a bit of pressure coming into this one away at Bristol City. I'm not totally convinced that that result away at Preston will be the thing that sort of, means that Birmingham are back this season and they're, going to ride the wave of confidence from this point onwards, because it was a bit of a smash and grab sort of game is how I'd describe it, really. Birmingham got themselves into the lead, and then it was a really sort of backs against the wall sort of job in the second half, which I think you need to be able to do. You need to be able to win games of football ugly, and it was a sort of untypical Birmingham performance, but a cracking result nonetheless. Like I say, a few moments of fortune with some decisions that didn't go for North End in that game, but I certainly think that the centre-half partnership going forward has to be Newman and Clara playing together. I think those two are like man mountains standing next to each other, and I think defensively, Birmingham will look really solid with those at the back. At the opposite end of the pitch, I do think Bristol City carry more of a threat than Birmingham do, and I think that's where this game could potentially be won. First goal feels quite important for this one. I just feel like Bristol City have a bit more about them in the final third. I mean, that's reflected by how many goals each side has scored so far this season. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Bristol City in that game, but could we see another smash and grab from Birmingham on the road? Potentially. Next up then to Pride Park for Derby up against QPR. Big wins for both of these sides in midweek, especially for Derby. That game against Norwich felt like a bit of a must-win for them, given the start to this season that they've had. And bit of a mixed bag once again, though, for me in terms of performance levels. Once again, we've said it countless times with Derby so far this season, but a really slow start to that game against Norwich. And on another day against better opposition, very easily could have gone in at half-time, 1 or 2 goals down. But thankfully, they made the right changes in the second half, came out with a new lease of life, and it was a quality goal that ended up winning it. Ajiman with a bit of invention to set up the winner, and a lovely finish from Ozo. Can Derby take a bit of that momentum into this game against QPR? Well, QPR have been a tricky customer. They're not losing many football matches right now. A big win for them away at Swansea in midweek. QPR probably should have been a little bit more comfortable in that game, and towards the end it looked a little bit nervy, looked like a bit of a rare off day for Richard Kone, but when he's having a bit of an off day, thankfully they've got another quality attacker in Burrell who bagged another for the season. Score prediction here, I've just got a feeling that Derby could start this game really slowly again, and QPR do have those quality forwards who can take a game away from you. I wouldn't be surprised if this ends level. If Derby come out with the same intensity as the second half against Norwich, then I think they get something from this game, but I'm still not overly convinced by them at the moment. Score prediction, I'm going to go for another QPR win on the road. I'm going to go 2-1 QPR in that game. Next up to Hull up against Charlton. I mean, what is there to say about these two sides at the moment? Proving all of the doubters wrong. It's 3 consecutive wins for Hull, who are coming off the back of a brilliant performance and result in midweek, beating Leicester 2-1. Some really well-worked goals in that game. Liam Miller taking his absolutely brilliantly, and the second one really well worked down that left-hand side. Bit of a give and go between Liam Miller and Ryan Giles in the end, the player who pulls the ball back. So much to like in the attacking third about that Hull City squad so far this season, and it is just a total contrast of what we saw from Hull last season, so absolutely fair play. I'm sure that fan base is absolutely loving everything they're seeing at the moment, but this will not be a walk in the park against the Charlton side, who picked up undoubtedly the result of midweek, going away to Ipswich and winning 3-0. Nathan Jones got his game plan absolutely spot on for that game. They soaked up the pressure in the first half, and then Ipswich just didn't know what hit them in that second half. There was that period of about 15 minutes for Charlton where just everything seemed to be falling for them. Sonny Carey with another goal. What a signing he's proven to be so far this season. With how both teams have been playing at the moment, you fancy there to be a few goals in this one, don't you? I certainly think that both teams will get on the score sheet for this game. Oh, and I don't really want to back against either of them right now because of the results they've been picking up. I just think maybe with Hull having that home advantage, they could sneak this one. But in saying that, Charlton was so good on the road in midweek away at Ipswich, but I'll stick to my guns for that one. I think Hull will just shade it, but Charlton will put up a fight. I'll go 2-1 Hull in that game, but wouldn't be surprised if that result's flipped on its head either. Both teams, like I say, coming off the back of great results on Tuesday. Next then to the Riverside for Middlesbrough up against Wrexham. Middlesbrough keeping the pressure on Coventry at the top of the Championship with a win in midweek away at Sheffield Wednesday. We mentioned that game as being a potential banana skin for Rob Edwards' side. They just about got the job done with a 1-0 victory thanks to another Morgan Whittaker goal. Borough probably should have been more comfortable in that game. They had plenty of chances in the first half especially, and had one of the most blatant penalty appeals waved away by the referee. We honestly had some horrific penalty decisions in the Championship in midweek, but thankfully for Borough, it didn't matter in the end as the one goal was enough. This game against Wrexham will be an interesting one. A much needed win for Phil Parkinson's side. Their first home win of the season came in midweek at home against Oxford. 1-0, they were looking pretty good up until Doyle got sent off, and then after that point really did have to soak up quite a bit of pressure from the opposition, but one goal was enough to win it in the end. Wrexham have been pretty handy in most of their away matches so far this season. I just can't look past Borough's record at the Riverside. It's 5 played at home, 4 wins, 1 draw, only 2 goals conceded for Borough in home matches so far this season. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Middlesbrough in that game. Next up to then for Millwall up against Leicester. If there's one team you don't really want to be facing in the Championship right now, other than maybe Coventry, Millwall are that side. They've won their last 3 consecutive matches. A cracking result for them in midweek, beating Stoke 2-0. That first 45 minutes especially, Millwall seemed to be playing some lovely football. And what I do like about this Millwall setup under Alex Neil is I think they are capable of winning football matches in different ways. And I mean, me speaking as a North End fan who obviously got to enjoy quite a few years of us being managed by Alex Neil, these are the sorts of matches against a parachute team like Leicester where just Alex Neil really comes into his element, and I think where he gets the best out of his players as well, because Leicester will come into this one looking to dominate the ball and have more of the possession, but I think that will suit Millwall. With Leicester, they're coming off the back of a defeat, disappointing one in midweek away at Hull, and I do think there has been a fragility in most of Leicester's performances, especially away from home this season, where you really can get at them. I think a team like Millwall will thrive on that. Now, don't get me wrong, Leicester have the ultimate sucker punch at the opposite end of the pitch because they do bring a real quality threat into every game they go into. Even against Hull when they weren't at their best, they still scored a quality goal in that game. So going into most matches, you'd fancy Leicester for at least 1 goal right now, but with Millwall having won their last 3, I'm going to say they'll make it 4 on the bounce here. I'll go 2-1 Millwall in this game, which would be, yeah, a bad week for Leicester, that's for sure. Next up to Hillsborough for Sheffield Wednesday up against Oxford. Wednesday only losing 1-0 to Borough in midweek, and second half gave a pretty good account of themselves and could have got back into that game. Don't get me wrong, they rode their luck at points of that first half and were very fortunate to have not given away a penalty, but second half, like I say, came out with a new lease of life, and up against an Oxford side who have been very up and down in terms of performance levels so far this season. I do think there could be something in this game for Wednesday. Oxford, they've just been a tough side to read of late. I thought they were really good over the weekend against Derby, but then just didn't follow that performance up in midweek. I thought they were pretty under par away at Wrexham. Had the chance to get back into that game, obviously in the second half when Wrexham were reduced to 10 men, but they just couldn't find that quality moment to get back into it. Wednesday are still looking for their first home win of the season. Obviously, a lot of fans protesting right now, and understandably so. So you've not exactly got the most harmonious atmosphere going on in Hillsborough, but Oxford, after midweek, I wouldn't be surprised if they drop points here. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw between Wednesday and Oxford. And then to round off this batch of games, we're going to Swansea up against Norwich. With both sides having lost in midweek, there's a bit of pressure on this fixture. I mean, for Norwich especially, it's 4 losses on the bounce. As of recording, Liam Manning is still in a job, but it really feels like he's on borrowed time at the moment. The most frustrating thing from his perspective is I don't think Norwich have been like utterly hopeless over their last few matches. Like, put the Ipswich game aside, they've lost 1-0 recently to West Brom, Bristol City and Derby County. All real marginal matches that they've just been on the wrong side of, and they've had chances in all of those games, but just nothing is falling for them at the moment. When the expectation of the whole club was for top 6 before a ball had been kicked, the fact that they're in the bottom 3 now after 11 matches and there aren't that many signs of things improving, it's a really concerning point that they find themselves in at this point of the season. Now, going up against a Swansea side who themselves I don't think have been amazing lately. I think they have been better away from home than they have been at home so far, actually. 1 win in 6 home matches for Swansea so far this season, a loss in midweek against QPR. I thought they were pretty poor for the first, 80 or so minutes of that game. They looked like they had a bit more life about them in the last 10 or 15, but lucky to only lose that 1-0 in my opinion. Fortunate thing for Swansea though is all 3 of their wins so far this season have all come against sides currently in the bottom 4 of the Championship, and that's exactly where Norwich are at this point in time. Norwich will be on the wrong end of some marginal games. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another. Score prediction, I'm going to go 1-0 Swansea in that game, which would surely be the final nail in the coffin for Liam Manning. Well guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to drop a like and get all your score predictions in the comments down below. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.